he grunts all the time, like a little growl almost, and I love it. See, Mom, look at me. Don't look at the camera. This gives me like PTSD, I swear, like looking at this. I have to be the worst person for people to watch videos of because my mind's everywhere. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is a very special video. When I found out I was having a boy, I was kind of in shock until probably the day I had him. So now I am obsessed. I'm obsessed. I like what was life before him. I feel like he's just made our family. So anyways, welcome back. Today is going to be my labor and delivery story with Mr. Maximilian. I'm gonna just start off by saying that I had the craziest labor and delivery ever. Just so much unexpected stuff happened. It was pretty traumatic, not in the sense that if we decided to have another kid that I wouldn't let that be the factor, because my first delivery was so different than this one. And so I just feel like you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know how your experience at the hospital is going to be. And even if you decided to do like a home birth, you don't know. You don't know how things are gonna go. Every pregnancy and delivery, everything is so different. My due date was, per my doctor, was August 10th. When we had our 20-week ultrasound, the ultrasound tech said August 12th. I always went with August 10th because the first time they switched it with my daughter, like my due date based on what the ultrasound tech said, and I ended up having her on the day that my doctor had said at the beginning. So I had the same doctor. I was like, you know what? August 10th is my due date in my heart. August 10th came around, nothing was happening, and I was like, okay, it's probably not gonna happen today. I had been having Braxton Hicks contractions for a while, here and there. My mom and I had gone shopping one day, and I had them like very frequent. It was kind of hard to like walk around, but then after that I felt like they would just come sporadically, you know, on random times throughout the day, on any day, and that was basically it. With my daughter, I had to be induced, so I kind of felt like I'm probably gonna have to be induced. I had an appointment on August 11th, so I went to see my provider, went to do a cervical check. My baby was super high up there, like he was not ready at all, and he was like, okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let you go another week. We're gonna schedule you for an induction for the 19th at 5 a.m. And so I left there a little disappointed because, you know, I went in thinking like, okay, maybe he's just gonna send me to the hospital. First time he checked me, I was dilated at a 1, so I was like, maybe I've progressed. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I've been doing things to kind of get my body ready as much as possible. I've been doing a ton of yoga, walking, hydration, like the herbal tea, all the things. As much as I wanted to go into labor by myself, like my whole pregnancy, that was kind of my hope and my plan. I knew that like with my induction with my daughter was kind of nice because it was like having an appointment to meet your child. My husband and I could get ready. We made sure we had everything. We had to be at the doctor's or at the hospital at a certain time. It's just very like nothing wild and unexpected. It went really smooth. I know not everybody's story's like that when they've had to be induced, but mine was. So it was kind of weird that didn't happen this time. So anyways, Saturday rolled around and we had a wedding. I'd already planned that I wasn't gonna go because I was like, I don't wanna make a scene. You know, if I go into labor, I don't wanna take away from their day at all. And also, like, I'm super pregnant, I'm super uncomfortable. I don't feel cute at all. I'm gonna sit this one out. My husband took our daughter as his date, which was the sweetest thing. I got her ready. Last video that I shot for YouTube was this day that I'm talking about. So if you go back, you'll see it. I had gotten like ready and stuff, like done my makeup, because I kind of in my head was like, if I go into labor by myself, I'm ready to go. Our bags were pretty much packed. Wedding came, the wedding went. Only thing that happened while they were gone, and I was like kind of shocked about, and TMI, but I had gone to use the restroom and I'm pretty sure I had lost like a piece of my mucus plug, and that didn't happen with my daughter. I never lost a mucus plug. I didn't even know what it looked like. Like I had to Google it and see like, okay, what does this look like. It wasn't what I thought at all. So that happened on Saturday while they were gone. Sunday came around. My body felt super tired, but I had days where I'd have a lot of energy like I did on Saturday. And then the next day I would just be like no makeup, hanging out at home all day. And that's kind of the way it was. So we were all kind of in that like lazy mode. But I did start to experience contractions that day. Started having pains down low. They were tolerable, but like they started to kind of get worse. And I was like telling my husband, I think I'm having contractions. And the reason I knew that, okay, this is different is because with Braxton Hicks, your stomach tightens and it tightens towards the front a lot. And it's just like your stomach will get super hard. Like if you poke it, it's super hard, but it's not bothersome. It's more just like a little uncomfortable. You know, you're aware for the most part. With my daughter, I don't even really remember Braxton Hicks. Like I didn't know if I had ever truly experienced them. With Max, I knew that I was having Braxton Hicks. This was different because it was so much lower and it truly felt like I was cramping. And so he was like, this is gonna happen today, huh? And I was like, I don't know, like if it does, it'll probably be tonight. Like, you know, I'm just gonna take it easy. Well, we all ended up taking a nap, or I think they did. I don't remember if I slept or not. And it was then that I started to track my contractions. So I started to track them like regularly about 3 something on August 14th, which is the day that I had Max. So there's an app, it's called Full Term. When your contraction starts, you start the button, and when it stops, you stop the button, and you just do that and it will track the frequency, the start time, the duration. So like how often are they coming? How long are they lasting? A quick Google search will tell you when your contractions are coming regularly, 4 minutes apart, each one lasting at least a minute, and they have followed this duration for an hour. So I went off of that. So I was just tracking them. And if you looked at my app, like it will show you a record of my contractions and how close they were. See, at first they started out just kind of random. So it was like 15 minutes apart, 16 minutes apart. So I knew like I'm not going to the hospital. I really didn't want to go to the hospital unless I had to. And I knew it was like, you know, getting closer and stuff, or at least being pretty sure, because we were taking my daughter to grandparents' house for them to watch her overnight. It was the first time she was ever going to spend the night away from mom and dad. She was having a hard time that day. I think she was just nervous. She didn't know what to expect. And so we were having a hard time. She had never acted like that before and stuff. And she would come to me crying, and then I would have to tell her like, you know, hold on, V, hold on, because I was having such bad contractions that I would literally have to lean over the bed and just sway back and forth until it passed. I couldn't relax because her emotions were everywhere, and it was making me kind of emotional about the whole situation because I knew I wasn't feeling good. I knew something was happening, but I didn't want to go to the hospital until it would get closer, because we live 45 minutes away from the hospital I was delivering at, and I truly did not like want to drop her off, like go there and then be like, okay, come back in the morning. I just didn't want all of that drama. I wanted to be like, okay, it's go time. So I did tell my husband, like, let your mom know that it's probably gonna happen, and just to be ready for Vienna so we can take her over there and she's prepared. And he dropped Vienna off at my in-laws house, and I didn't get out to tell her bye. I hugged her in the car because I was in so much pain. And that's kind of when I knew it was getting harder to relax, and every bump was like making it worse. I remember like Mitchell just grabbing my hand and trying to hold it, and I was like, just wait, hold on. Like if I was having a contraction, I could not have him touch me. Like my palms were so clammy, and I was just like kind of sweating. I was just really nervous. Like I just felt like, okay, it's time. Like I was just clenching onto like the handle. I was just so uncomfortable. Once we finally got to the hospital, I told him, like, can you ask them if they have a wheelchair? Like I don't think I can like walk in there and walk all the way to the labor and delivery unit. And so he went and got me a wheelchair. The cutest thing was, like, before I left, Vienna had a little pair of shorts that were Max's, and she was like, here, like if you're crying or you need anything, mom, you have these shorts, you can wipe your face. And I hung on to those shorts for dear life. Like literally through labor, I had those shorts in my hand, and like I don't know, it was just like a comfort thing. Like I feel like a kid taking their blanket from home, you know, like it meant so much to me that it came from Vienna, and I felt like it gave me so much like strength. Anyways, side note, but I had his little shorts with me the whole entire time. I didn't let him go. They took us to the labor and delivery unit. It was Sunday night. The hospital was really quiet, and they checked us in. So while they were checking us in, I was like, just like burying myself. Like I was in so much pain, but I was trying to like almost not show it, because I didn't think that I was like ready to go or anything like that. I just thought like, okay, I know I'm having contractions. So with my daughter being induced, I had gotten pain medication, and then I ended up getting the epidural. They broke my water. Like everything was not my body didn't do it on its own, so I never experienced everything the way I did this time. So I just wasn't sure. So they took us to triage, and the nurse was so kind, and she was like, okay, honey, like I need you to give me a urine sample. Here's the bathroom. I went in the bathroom to give a urine sample, and I sat down, and I just remember being in so much pain. So I walked out, went in the room with Mitchell. He helped me change, which he was so good and so patient with me the whole time. At that time, like my water had not broke or anything. So it was just very much like me thinking it was time. I put the gown on, and I was like, I can't lay down. Like Mitchell was just holding on to me, and I was hugging him. I was like, I don't think I can like lay down. Like the thought of like all the pressure, like laying back, like, so I waited till the nurse came back in, and then she was like, I need you to lay down so I can check you. And she asked me, do you plan on getting an epidural? And I said yes. And I laid down, and I felt like it felt like a pop inside my abdomen, and all of a sudden my water broke. It was like a flood puddle of water. It wasn't like the trickle that some people experience and stuff. Like it just was all over me. And she was like, okay, honey, it's okay. She's like, let me check you. And she's like, you know what? She's like, you don't have time for the epidural. She's like, you're at a 9. And I literally was like, what? Like I was so shocked. I couldn't believe that I had just like labored at home for that long. And she's like, I'm gonna call the doctor. I knew that my doctor wasn't gonna be the one to deliver, because he had told me we take turns, like we're on call during weekends and stuff. It's always a different doctor on the weekend. So if you do labor on the weekend, like there's a slim chance it would be him. So I kind of knew in my heart, like, okay, I'm not gonna have him. Luckily, it was one I had seen twice before when he was just out of the office. So I felt comfortable with that, but I could overhear her speaking on the phone, and she was like, no, like I need you to get here now. She was like, I would feel much more comfortable if you were here. So she hung up the phone. They came and got me and didn't even have me walk to the room. Like these nurses were like jogging with me on the bed still. Like once my water broke, in hindsight, I'm like, I think that's when he completely dropped into the birth canal, because that's when all of the pain came. Like, yes, the contractions were hard, but they were bearable. But once my water broke, I feel like he just like fell into my birth canal. And so I was screaming, like literally screaming in so much pain. I had never experienced that much pain in my life before. I'm in the room, I'm on the bed. Like the nurses aren't like propping things up, getting things ready. They're just like, you can't have the epidural. Like the doctor's not here. Like you need to wait. Like, we'll just wait for the doctor. So, you know, they were putting my IV. I'm clenching onto the bed in the worst pain of my life, laying flat down, and I'm telling these nurses, like, I need help. And they're like, whatever your body feels like it needs to do, just let it happen. And I'm not like in a position that they usually put you in, like with your legs up and like all that kind of stuff. Nobody was like touching me like in a therapeutic like way. And I guess it bothered me a lot, because I am a registered nurse, and I know that you have to be compassionate and like there for your patient and talk them through things a lot of times, and just be that like sound mind for them. And I had a room full of nurses getting things ready around me, but they were all just staring at me. Like nobody was like trying to be helpful or like, honey, like breathe through it, or like checking me like he's right there. Nothing. I remember a nurse telling me, like, if you need to get on your hands and knees, like if that's more comfortable, go ahead and do that. My body was like in so much pain that I could not, like the thought of flipping over and having all that weight, there was no way. Like I was already past that. The worst part was like Mitchell's holding my hand. Like he told me later, he's like, I wanted to cry. He was like, I felt so helpless. He was like, you were in so much pain and nobody was helping you, and I didn't know what to do. He was like, there was nothing that I could do. He's like, I just, you know, was watching you. And the sad part was like at the end is like, I told Mitchell, like, Mitchell, please help me. Like, I felt crazy. If you've ever been in a labor and delivery like unit and you've heard a mom screaming or anything, I remember that from nursing school and thinking like, God, like, is it that bad? It was before I ever had kids, you know, and I was like, why is she screaming? Now I get it, 100%. I remember like trying to turn on my side and I was like, I can't wait, like he's coming. And they're like, okay, push. And I pushed and I swear his head just popped out. They're like, keep pushing, he's here. My body at that time was so tired. As mom, like you just like bear the weight and do what you have to do. And so I gave it one more good push and his body just fell, literally, I feel like just like fell out of me. All the nurses and Mitchell were like, he's here. And Mitchell was like, you did it, babe, like he's here. And my whole body started to like shake. And they were like, hold your baby, like he's here. And I was like, I can't, I just need a minute. I think my body was almost like in shock. So like 3 minutes later, the doctor comes in and they had yelled for the doctor that was just like in the hospital. I think it was like the hospitalist to come help. But by the time he walked in, I had already had him. And so he was just like staring at me like, you know, this girl's already done. And then like 2 minutes later, the provider who was coming to deliver my baby walked in and she was like, I literally ran a red light to get here. And so she came in just in time for my placenta to come out and see if you tore at all and stuff, if you need stitches. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I've had no epidural, no pain medication at all, completely unmedicated. And if I need stitches right now, like, come on, like, what else could happen? Luckily, she was like, you didn't tear at all. So that was a huge blessing that I didn't tear. The first time with my daughter, I just had a 1st-degree tear. So it was very minimal. So I was, you know, pretty much done. I checked in labor and delivery at 6:13 and he was born at 6:41. So that's how quick, like, labor progressed. And it was time, like there was no waiting for the doctor. As much as they wanted me to wait for her, I couldn't. And the other issue too was the nurses, like even my husband will say, they looked scared. Like they were like, just wait for the provider, you know, like they'll be here soon and stuff. It's like they didn't know what to do, which doesn't make me feel good at all. As a labor and delivery nurse, like they should know what to do or be able to give you direction or be therapeutic. Really, the nurse who gave me the best experience was the triage nurse. There was a time when she had come in and she was like, you're doing great, honey, like just to give the other nurses something. And I almost asked her, like, can you please just stay with me? Like, she was the only person besides my husband that offered me like some type of peace. But I didn't, and I think it was like 5 minutes before he was probably even born because everything had happened so quickly. But yeah, so I hope I'm not missing anything, but that basically was our experience. Max was born at 7 pounds 13 ounces, so he was almost, Vienna was 6 pounds 14 ounces, so he was basically like a pound bigger than his sister. And he was 19 inches and 3/4 long, where Vienna was just 19 inches. So healthy as can be. I joke now because I wanted to do a home birth and I'm like, I basically did without like the peace of mind of being at my own home. But other than that, like postpartum was a great experience. We only had to stay one night. We didn't want to stay any longer unless we absolutely had to. The only thing that had happened that was like a big concern for us was he had passed through the birth canal so quickly that the first time they did his hearing screening, he didn't pass. But he had kept like spitting up amniotic fluid postpartum, and they were like, you know, he passed through so quickly that that's normal. He's like full of fluid. That was concerning for me just because it was scary, like to sleep and stuff. And I didn't get much sleep, but also you're on such a high, even though your body's so tired and you're so concerned about your child and just everything's so new, and it's just like the most blissful, beautiful, craziest time of your life when you have a kid. Sleep was not like my priority at all. So I remember just like watching him and not sleeping much because I wanted to be there if like he was spitting up or anything so I could hold him upright. But yeah, so the first time he didn't pass his hearing screening at the hospital. They'll do it again at the hospital, so they give him 2 times. He didn't pass again, and so they had to schedule us for an outpatient hearing exam a week later. We had to go back on a Monday. The weekend before, I got pretty emotional because I was like, what if he can't hear? My husband was like, if that's like the biggest issue he ever has, like that's not, you know, like we would deal with it. We would figure it out. Like he's healthy, like we're so blessed and stuff. But as a mom, you know, you worry about everything with your children. And so I was pretty emotional about it to like my mom and sister and my husband, but luckily Monday came around, and during his exam I was like holding his hand. I could tell that he could hear because he had the little like ear things on that they put for them, you know, and the little noises go off and stuff. And I couldn't hear them, but I knew he could because he was like looking both ways. Like when they would go off, he would look where they were. And so when she was like, okay, he passed, I like literally was like teary-eyed. Mitchell and I were so happy and stuff, and I just felt just so much better, because you just want your kids to be healthy and happy and just full of life, and you just don't want anything little or big to ever happen to them. And so yeah, so everything has been perfect since then. Recovery has been a lot easier. Like I feel like my body recovered so much faster than it did with Vienna having to be medicated. But the experience was traumatic. First night in postpartum, Mitchell and Max were both sleeping, and I remember being awake and like getting really teary-eyed because I was like remembering everything and like had a moment to like soak in what had happened and stuff. Get emotional about it because I'm like, it was such a traumatic experience for me, and I've never felt so just like disconnected and helpless like in my entire life. So I think that if the nurses had coached me and been like, your water broke, like you're at a 9, okay, he's right here, like check to see where his head was, it would have been fine. But the fact that I was trying to hold him in and wait for the provider, and I didn't realize that he was like so low and just ready to go because I had no direction. I had no one helping me or coaching me. I think that was what was causing so much pain. And it was until like he literally was not going to wait anymore that I had to just push. So anyways, this is Mr. Maximilian. You want to say hi? He's such a joy. He's like literally the most peaceful, calmest baby ever, and I'm just obsessed, and Vienna's obsessed, and Mitchell's obsessed, and we just feel so blessed. So I'm gonna go put little man down, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
I lose my breath whenever I see you. You stole my heart, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon needs the sun, we don't care about the others.